Good morning, Swamiji.
Good morning, Noel.
Good morning, Swamiji.
Good morning, Ujjwal.
Good morning, Swami.
Good morning, Betty. Good morning, everybody. Let us start. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. The subject of my talk today is pray unceasingly. A few days ago, I received one email from a devotee. Many of you know him, Peter Pinchan. And he actually forwarded one email that he had received from a friend in India. So I would like to share that email that he had received and he has shared with me and also a few other devotees. So the friend is saying, generally on 29th April, I am celebrating with my boy his birthday. Today, there is no desire to celebrate. There is so much misery and suffering around. The pain is choking me. Every day I am losing someone I know. The worst tragedy of all of this is loneliness. The one who is dying is lonely. The one who is left behind is lonely. There is nobody to hug, console, or simply hold the hand. What a tragedy of unspoken words, fear of isolation, and lack of warmth. Just pick up the phone and call your loved ones and pray. Pray that we all come out of this alive. Pray for the departed souls. Pray that we can breathe fresh air without fear. This is the real situation. It is not a theoretical situation. It is a real situation that is happening in some parts of India. It has happened to many other parts of the world. And now it seems that it is India's turn. So whatever it may be, when calamity comes, naturally, we turn to God. There is no other place. In one place, you see, Lincoln has said in one place, I have been driven many times to my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I had nowhere else to go. So the situation in India, in the many families and in many persons' life is like this. So let us talk about prayer today. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has said in chapter 7, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritanarjuna artho jignasu artharthi gnani cha bharatarsava. There are four types of persons who actually pray to me or worship me. Worship and prayer are fall into the same category. That means connection with God. One is to ask something from God, and worship means just to please God to do something. That is worship. So, but the connection is with God definitely. But in the case of what is called calamity, and there's nothing that we can do, we actually pray. Pray means we ask something. So he's saying four types of persons pray to God. Number one is that the man who is in distress. Then second is the man seeking knowledge, spiritual knowledge. We pray to God, give us illumination, knowledge, devotion. Then also the man seeking wealth. Wealth means not only money, the general meaning of wealth is money, but definitely anything which is really covetable in our lives. Probably some people will want children or grandchildren, or some people like to have some what is called some name and fame. They are actually they will fall into the category of wealth. That means we need something, we have desire to get something. So these things also we pray for. Many people do that. It is not uncommon, and it is also legitimate also, because our desires need to be fulfilled. And those who are really in the worldly life, so there are many wants and desires with which they are really they have. And in another place, Lord Krishna has said, yes, it is not bad that somebody is remembering me to get something. That means with desire, they are praying to me. Because 50%, that means is at least remembering me, keeping touch with me. Otherwise, actually, they will not remember me or think of God. And this type of prayer may turn, because they know that to ask something, we turn to God. So ultimately, in case of necessity, this may turn when they will really remember God for in time of distress also, or in time of asking for knowledge also. So they keep the connection with God. That is a positive part of this type of prayer. Then also the man who has gained insight that God alone is real. That is the spiritual seekers. Spiritual seekers, like they probably want to know what God is, where he is, and also wants to have his company or just to be with him. So all those things we know from the scriptures or from the stories, that one can have the company of God. So that type of person also seeks God. So these are the four types of persons or categories of persons who really are seeking God. So Lord Krishna has said, seeking me, that is the point. But in the present context that with which actually started, we fall into the category of the man in distress. Some people are definitely in distress. Some people are at a distance, they want to sympathize who are in distress. They are also in distress because of the contagiousness of distress. Mental distress is there if somebody is known to us is really in a very critical situation. This has happened to us also very recently. Just I was seeing seeing means I was aware for some time. One of our colleagues means monastic colleagues. I had the opportunity of working with him, living with him for quite some time in India. He was in age, he was little older to me, but as you know that in our order, joining is the what is called birth date. That means that the time when we join the order, from where actually our age, spiritual age or monastic age starts. So I joined a little early than him. So he was a very successful, not only successful, very effective person in doing work in Gujarat, especially in the field of helping poor people. And he, in some part of Gujarat, there is drought. That means there is shortage of water. That means the nature has not been gracious to that place, we can say. So people, especially women, had to go to fetch water from a long distance, especially in the time of summer. So he took a mission to dig wells and to dig ponds for the catching of water. So in that way, he did an enormous work in that area. Not only that, he was very much in the education also. Village people do not have the access to schools. So during the one of the earthquakes, many schools were destroyed. So he constructed many schools, collected funds and constructed many schools, villages, reconstructed the schools or constructed new schools. In that way, he did a lot of work. Otherwise also, he was always active in doing some sort of relief work. And of course, as a Swami, he was in charge of a center, so naturally regular activities. Also, he constructed a new temple where he had lived. So suddenly, that means I was just talking to the present Swami, Swami in charge, where I used to stay. And he said that, well, we are worried about him. What is the reason of our worry? Because he's in the hospital. I did not know. It was just a bolt from the blue. And he said that he was detected that he had COVID. And immediately, actually, he was transferred into the nearby very good hospital. And treatment started. But unfortunately, after 1 month, he was in ventilator for whole 1 month. Then actually the struggle ended and he died peacefully. So these are the news that are coming, and though we are not in the scene, but definitely these news make us very much depressed and makes us very sad. So distress means you may not be affected physically, but definitely you may be affected mentally. That is the point. That is also many people are having this type of experiences. So again, the distresses also come in another place. It has been said that there are 3 types of distresses. What pertaining to the what is called physical and mental, which is known as adhyatmic. Adhyatmic means pertaining to the body. So those who are suffering, they are actually in that category. That means they are suffering because they have been the disease have attacked them, so naturally their body is ill. And with physical illness, definitely to some extent, mind is also affected. Those who are very strong in mind, probably they will say, oh, I don't bother about disease. Like Sri Ramakrishna, he had a fall and he broke his arm, but he was quite cheerful when he used to talk to the devotees. But when he remembered his injury, he used to feel what is called pain. So all of us are not like that. Most of us will always have, if something happens to the body, probably we shall feel the pain or worry, and all those things will be a part of our day-to-day life. So this is physical and mental. So diseases like what is called cancer and what is called bereavement, also mental, and separation, And also there are certain events in the life which makes us sad and sorrow, like loss of money or loss of job, and these things also make us sorry. And these all fall into the category of adhyatmic, pertaining to the body. Others will not feel probably these things. It is personal thing. In that way, it is called adhyatmic. That means inhering one's own body. Then there is, of course, adhibhautik. That means somebody, natural calamities are there also. And in that way, there are other two categories, adhibhautik and adhidoivik. Fire, flood, tornado, these are also caused by outside elements. They are also source of different types of distresses. But at present, we see that the theme that we have started with is that we are really in the category of adhyatmic, pertaining to our body. That means body includes mind, individual body and mind. Probably my friend who is around, he does not have any problem as such, because he is not affected. His near and dear ones are okay, and he himself is okay. So in that way, it is individual. So individually, in such circumstances, we are really in distress. And there are other types of as Lord Krishna has said, the man seeking wealth also. So Swami Vivekananda, Swami Ramakrishna has given one example in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. You see that once a fakir. Fakir means a beggar, but a religious type. Religious in a sense, that means he begged for himself and also for the benefit of others. He thought that, well, if I get some money, I shall do something good to others also. So that is not uncommon. So he probably wanted to have what is called a temple constructed where he can do spiritual practice and also people can get the benefit of spiritually. So in that way, he approached the king. And at that time, the king, that means it is related to one of our very well-known ruler. His name was Akbar. Akbar was one of the greatest rulers of India. That means he was a Mughal emperor, but he was very liberal. And during his time, actually, people were very much happy. So that fakir, knowing that Akbar is a great king, he approached him for some money so that he can do some good to others. So he went to him, and when he went, he saw that the king was really praying. What was he praying for? He was praying for wealth, he was praying for more what is called comfort, he was praying for what is called more land, expansion of his empire, and all those prayers he was doing. So he watched the king in the prayer. Then he thought that, well, what is the use of asking something from a person who himself is a beggar? He is begging for these things. I am also a beggar, but my my need is small, but his need is big. But still, we are in the same category. That means we are all what is called beggars. So he was going away, thinking that instead of asking him, let me try other way. So Akbar, that king, actually felt, sensed that this person who had come is going away. So he asked him to wait for some time till he finished his prayer. So the beggar actually waited, and the king finished his prayer and said that, well, why were you going away? So he said that, well, I wanted some money I wanted help from you for construction of what is called a temple in my place, so that people can come and have some prayer. And also I wanted a food and other things, water and all those things for them. So the king said, then why were you going away? I can give all those things to you. So then the fakir, that means the beggar, said that, well, what is the use of asking something from a beggar? You yourself were asking these things from God. Let me go directly to God. So with that with that thought in my mind, I thought I better pray to God for the things that I need instead of praying to a beggar. So he told the king. Of course, the story ends here, but definitely I believe the king satisfied him because uh, he was a very generous king. So the point is that seeking wealth is also a legitimate, will be fall into the category of legitimate prayer. We pray for money, we pray for passing an examination, which is very important for the students, and also for winning a court case also. There are intricate court cases, and for that also we pray. So in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we find one example that Mathurnath Vishwas, that means who was the owner of the temple, once came to the temple, and he was a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna also. He said that he asked him that, will you please give this flower to Divine Mother Kali, so that I can win a case. Case means he was a landlord, so a lot of litigations he had to face. So there was an intricate case. So he said that, well, if you just give this flower and pray for me. So in that way also, winning the court case also. And also there are many, many other things for which we pray to God. So as I told you, these are legitimate prayers, but definitely they are not for spiritual growth. Lord Krishna has said that, well, they're still remembering me, and they will these little prayers or these prayers with desires will ultimately mature into what is called for self-realization. And in case of what is called seekers of knowledge, that means those who pray for knowledge, spiritual illumination. That means who you are, I want to know. Where you are, I want to know. In that way, actually, people also pray. I hear about you, that you are all-knowing, and you are. If we reach you, that all the sorrows will be over. So naturally, one can pray for that. So there is an example we find in the life of Swami Vivekananda also. Swami Vivekananda was in the dire situation from the point of view of his family condition when his father died. And he used to come to Sri Ramakrishna, and he knew that Sri Ramakrishna had the good connection with Mother Kali. So he tried, Swami Vivekananda, Narendranath at that time, he tried to earn some money in different ways. He took a job in the school, or he worked for somebody in a, what is called as a manager of an estate, all those things, but nothing actually worked out. And he could not see the poverty of his family. That means mother and brothers and sisters were really literally starving. Sometimes he used to, he himself did not eat food at home. He used to say to his mother that, well, I have eaten my food with the friends. So in that way, he used to save food for the family. So this is the dire situation that he had. That means after trying all avenues, he was really could not find any way out. Then he thought that, well, I go to Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna loves me. So if I request him on my behalf to ask Mother Kali, and Mother Kali, Sri Ramakrishna has a good access, very good relationship, and Mother Kali will definitely fulfill what Sri Ramakrishna will ask. So with that intention, he went to Sri Ramakrishna and explained to him the situation. Then Sri Ramakrishna said that, well, you see that it is not that I do not pray for you. I pray for you, but you do not believe in Mother Kali, so things are not happening. Because at that time, Swami Vivekananda was a member of the Brahmo Samaj, and he had the belief that God is impersonal, without form. So that is the belief, that is the pledge that the Brahmos had to take. So naturally, he did not believe in the existence of Mother Kali. And in fact, he used to tease Sri Ramakrishna time to time that he had the vision, and he used to, Mother Kali comes to him, all those things he did not really believe. But in a dire circumstances, he had to take up Sri Ramakrishna, because he himself did not do. So Sri Ramakrishna said that, well, you do not believe, so naturally my prayer is not working. So then he said that today, Sri Ramakrishna said to him that today is a good day. There are good days and not so good days for the worship of Divine Mother. According to tradition, tradition means those who had done worship of Divine Mother for a long time, or the tradition has come down, they say that Tuesdays and Saturdays are good days for the worship of Divine Mother. It is very well known in Bengal or eastern part of India. These are the very good days. For others also there are good days. So Mahavir, that means for Hanuman, is also Saturday is a very good day. It is well known in North India. So in that way, Sri Ramakrishna told Narendranath, when Narendranath told him that you please pray for me so that I cannot, my family is suffering so much, I cannot go to my home and see the starving faces of the members of my family. Do something for me. So Sri Ramakrishna said that, well, I try and I have prayed, but it is not working. The reason is that you do not believe in my mother. So then he said that, well, today, as Sri Ramakrishna told Nana, today is a good day, and you go and you pray yourself. That means you go to the Mother Kali yourself what you want. So ultimately, Narendranath, because of the circumstances, had to go in the temple, and Sri Ramakrishna told him that be careful and you must ask what you want. So when he went to the temple, actually, he was completely transformed by seeing the Divine Mother's image. It was lively, and not only that, the atmosphere was so spiritual that he forgot what he wanted to ask. So instead, actually, by seeing that Mother Kali's countenance, he prayed for devotion, he prayed for knowledge and all those things. So which is spiritual, because he was a spiritual seeker. So those things came to his mind, and he prayed for those things and returned to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna asked, did you pray for what you were asking me to pray? Oh, then actually he was shocked. He said that, well, my purpose of going to pray to Divine Mother was to get some money or food and all those things, but I forgot that. So Sri Ramakrishna scolded him. That means why you are so, what is called, so weak in your mind that you cannot ask these things from your mother. Go again. So in that way, actually, 3 times actually he went to Divine Mother, but he not really. He always forgot to ask about the material things. Only spiritual things he asked. So these are actually what is called that we can see that a person of spirituality will ask under any circumstance for the knowledge. That means give me knowledge, give me devotion, give me spirituality, so that I can really realize you. So in this way, the prayers actually we do. Now, naturally, we see what if somebody wants to pray for anything. Say now the circumstances that we have to pray for our, what is called, those who are in distress for them, and those who are in distress, what to say, they must pray, and probably they are praying. So how these prayers can be made effective? Effective means, that means fruitful. Actually, all the acts that according to Bhagavad Gita should be done without the expectation of any result. That is the most ideal case. But Holy Mother also has said that yes, when you are in distress, you can definitely ask to ask God to save you from that distress. That means that is the topmost, what is called, topmost thought that is in your mind. If that thought does not go away, actually, how you will actually do your spiritual practice? So that is an obstruction. So in that way, definitely one can pray for good days or for the removal of difficulties to God, and that is quite legitimate. And we see Many people do that, and definitely most of the people do that when they are in distress, they approach God. So they will say that, well, I went to the temple and I prayed to God and, for what is called, my son is sick, or I am suffering from such and such disease, or I want to have something. So in that way, I prayed to him. So to make the prayer effective, also in the scriptures we see in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is a great book for the practice of devotion. As we know that this book was written for the adoration of the incarnations of God, especially Lord Krishna, remembering all the sports activities of Lord Krishna. That is a sort of meditation. So in that way, Vedavyasa was successful to get peace of mind. That means he was very much disturbed in his mind, but by remembering him always, while writing the Bhagavatam, naturally he had to remember God. So in that way, he got the peace of mind. It was a sort of meditation for him. So in Bhagavatam, it has been said, Anukullasa sankalpa, pratikullasa varjanam, rakshishati iti visyaso, goptritva varnam tatha, atma nikshepa karpanne, Saravidha Saranagati. That means you have to surrender yourself to God. So he has said, Anukulla Samadhi, thinking of what is auspicious and favorable. That means, or taking which is advantageous. That means for, spiritual practices, there are certain disciplines that has been prescribed. Taking, following those disciplines, probably doing the fast, or taking a bath, or doing the worship, or those who are very serious, they are seeking God, probably they will renounce also. They become monks to have the spiritual realization. So things which are really favorable for the attainment of what you want physically, that you can really take. That will be helpful. So thinking of what is auspicious and favorable, that needs to be taken. That is, these things does not require any what is called special effort. That means fasting, actually we can do, or taking a bath, we can do, or worship, we can do. So these are the Anukula. So Anukula means these are favorable things which actually helps in the what is called in the prayerful mode. Then Pratakulla Savarjanam, that means not thinking of unfavorable, inauspicious things. That means which are really detrimental for what is called for the purpose of our prayer. That means wasting time in some other thoughts, or wasting time in some other deeds. So in that way, if we do something which is really not propitious, Lord Buddha has said that certain things are not really propitious for self-knowledge, that means for nirvana. Well, one of the things that he has mentioned is that to take to a profession which is really requires what is called violence. That means which is like the what is called fisherman's profession, or a hunter's profession, or a butcher's profession. These professions are not really favorable for spiritual growth. He has mentioned in the 8th path. So in the same way, you can figure out what is really distracting for the path of spirituality. So those things have to be given up, or we have to distance ourselves from those activities. Then Rakshikshati Vishwaso, that means faith in God's saving power. That means we have to have faith in God. That means, yes, I'm praying to God. It is not that we should have doubt that, well, he actually may not be favorable to me. Probably he favors others. So in that way, actually, if you do not have faith to whom actually you are praying, it will not work. The case of Swami Vivekananda, the Narendranath at the Kali temple is like that. That means Sri Ramakrishna said that you do not have faith in Mother Kali. How actually it will happen? So it is very important. That means you have to have faith in whatever way you think of God. It is not that you have to think of Mother Kali. or according to our own liking. We have to have faith in one form of God, or if you believe in formless God, that is also perfectly all right. So in that way, we have to have great faith for the success of our prayer. Then always Goptitva Varanam, always preferring God's protection. That means without God's protection, without God's intervention, actually we cannot get out of this problem. That also can be illustrated. We can remembering the story of Naranath, we can find out he tried all the avenues of earning money, all the avenues of getting some food. But ultimately he took to the resort that yes, without the taking help of God, intervention of God, actually I cannot get rid of this. That is called Goptitva Varna, always preferring God's protection. That means God only can help me. Then of course, then he said Atma Nikshesha, that means self-surrender. That means I surrender. That means I have no other way, but I surrender yourself so to take care of me. That type of attitude is called self-surrender. So Sri Ramakrishna said that Ami Jantra Tumi Jantri. That means I am an instrument. You are the driver, just like a motor car. That means I am the motor car and you are the driver. So in that way, you are really, whatever you are asking me to do or what you are inspiring me to do, I am doing. That type of attitude towards God. So that is also important for success of the prayer. Then Karpanna means feeling of helplessness. Helplessness, it is an extreme type of what is called surrender. That means there is no other way, there is no other avenue that can really help me. Just like a kitten, you saw Sri Ramakrishna has given the example of kitten. They say mew mew, they will call. Then the mother actually comes and takes the what is called the kitten to some place, in a good place or something, or brings food in that way. That means complete dependence on God. So that is called Karpanna. So these are the, it is good to know that how one can make. That means these are efforts we can make, but the result is in the hands of God. But definitely it has been found in the lives. That means when we read the lives of great spiritual personalities who were successful in their spiritual life, we see that they actually resorted to, knowingly or unknowingly. Some people definitely had the knowledge from their teachers, or some people had the knowledge from studying the scriptures. So in that way, they came to know that these are helpful for them. And in that way, we also know that if we repeat that, that means we can learn from their lives. We shall also be able to get the grace of God. In case of Sri Ramakrishna, we see that he used to do worship of Divine Mother. Of course, his dependence of Divine Mother was intense. One aspect, if it is intense, actually they take into consideration, or they become really other aspects. Really, other aspects are taken care of. Suppose you have this type of what is called faith in God's saving power, as it is called, Rakshishati Vishwas, as it is. Without God, I will not be saved. That is the last resort. So if that is intense, then actually other things, that means self-surrender, it will actually cover. It will self-surrender will be taken care of by this type of attitude. So we don't have to practice separately what is called self-surrender. So the point is this: ultimately, we have to have some sort of a relationship with God, an intense relationship with God with these attitudes. And then actually we can expect, this is an expectation that our prayers will be answered. That means we can, our prayers will be, in praying we shall be successful. Now, for this type of prayer, it is necessary that we have to have an intense or very intimate relationship with God. God should be our own person, nearest of the near person. That means we have near persons. Our relatives are there, our children are there, our parents are there, friends are there. They are also near person. They're not strangers to us, but God should not remain a stranger to us. They should be nearest of the near person. So who are the nearest person to an individual? Their own relatives. That means those who are around us, they are the nearest person. We are always thinking of them. They are also thinking of me. So in that way, they are the nearmost person. So in the same way, if we can establish a sort of relationship with God, a relationship means if we can think of God as father, mother, brother or sister, or wife or child, or maybe master. So these are the relationship with which we are acquainted. We cannot think of any relationship which is not really far and beyond our imagination. So these type of relationship are within us already. So we can think of God as maybe Father. Jesus Christ did that. He always thought of God as Father, and Sri Ramakrishna thought God as Mother. So in that way, actually, he did worship and pray to God. In case of Sri Chaitanya, you see that he took the attitude of Radha, that means beloved. Sri Krishna was beloved. That means in that attitude, actually, he did his spiritual practice. So when we examine or go through the lives of great spiritual personalities, we see that they had this type of relationship established. So we can take advantage of that, give some thoughts. Well, in what way actually we shall think of God? So suppose the way of Sri Ramakrishna is good for me, I go to the Kali temple. So if we think of God as mother, so probably it will be very helpful. Or I go to the Shiva temple. So you may think that, oh, Lord Shiva is my father. That is easy for me. And if we think of going to what is called Krishna's temple, probably I can think of Krishna as a Gopala. Gopala means child. In that way, it is helpful for me. So in that way, a sort of a relationship is really established. Then what is the point? The point is that it will be easy for us to practice, or the prayers will come very easily. We are not doing something or asking something for a stranger. That is the point. We sometimes we have to go and ask something for a stranger, and that really, because the stranger is good or he is really favorable, then actually you can get that, because we do not know each other. But in case of spirituality, if the relationship is there and the relationship is a known relationship, then it becomes very, we are not approaching a stranger, and the stranger also we feel that will not think that we are a stranger to him or her. So in that way, a sort of relationship is very helpful. So in we see that these are the three aspects that I told you now by this time. That means one is that definitely at the time of distress, we should pray for us and for those who are in distress, for them also, because mentally actually we are affected. That means that is a distress, that though we are physically not suffering, but mentally we are suffering. That for that we are also affected. So naturally, to get rid of that, we can pray to God, and that is also acceptable. And different ways, that means how to intensify that prayer, that also we discussed. And then also relationship, which is further effect can be make the prayer more effective, is established a relationship with what is called a divine entity. So these are the practical aspect that has come down to us. If you read literature of devotion, in all religion, you'll find that these are the common thing that they have been said about prayer. Now, I would like to share some stray thoughts about prayer, because though according the present situation is like this, where we need to do prayer, but definitely prayer has got different aspects we need to know, and why we should pray, and why we should ask others to pray. And when we ask, somebody is asking us to pray, we should know why it is important, or why at these circumstances the prayer has become so a subject matter of discussion and subject matter of practice that we need to know. In fact, we have come up to the portion, even the CDC means that the Department of what is called, those who supervise the health of the nation, you can say in one way. So that is a government agency. They have prescribed that because they know people are suffering, so they have to prescribe something other than medicine. There are certain other things that they have said, precautions, and also for mental suffering, they have said to do meditation. Meditation, nowadays it is well established scientifically, that helps to keep the mind in good condition. That means peace of mind is maintained. That means mental health remains good. But they have not come to the extent to say pray, because the government people cannot say anything about religious things. But definitely there are researches that have found that those who pray, or those who pray for others also, definitely they themselves enjoy the peace of mind. And not only that's praying for others also, somehow or other, that means they have found, suppose somebody is sick, I am praying for somehow or other, they are also relieved to some extent. That means that type of what is called studies have found that also. So it is not that our prayers will go in vain. It is not really true. That means even when we pray, something will happen. That means it may not be it may not be in an intense quality. That means if I pray for somebody, because of my prayer, actually that person will get rid of disease. It may not happen like that, but definitely it will have some effect, good effect on that person, and it has been scientifically found out. So it is not in this case. That means not in present circumstances, but in different other circumstances, it has been found. Suppose somebody is going to have heart surgery. So naturally his relatives and friends are praying. And it has been found that those whose relatives and friends are praying, they actually come out, what is called, more comfortably from the surgery. So in that way, it is fairly established that prayers actually help in healing. So in that way, different aspects of the prayers are good to know. Prayer in its simplest definition is merely a wish turned Godward. So this is a very nice reflection that yes, wish or desire, you can say. That means intense prayer requires desire. That means we actually ask God for something we want. Desires as such, in a broader sense or in a subtle sense, not broader, in a subtle sense, is hindrance to spiritual realization. But definitely in circumstances like this, this type of desires is an important for remover of the obstacles for self-realization also. So now the only prayer which a well-meaning man can pray is, "O God, give me whatever is fitting unto me." That is the prayer which actually spiritual person will do. We do not know what will be good for me. If it is suffering, it has been said in what is called in Mahabharata, actually Kunti, that means the great mother of the Pandavas, she had prayed that, well, give me as much as suffering as possible. I am ready to bear, but don't allow me to forget you. That means I want to remember you always under any circumstances, even if you give me more suffering. So naturally the prayer is like this. The only prayer which a well-meaning man can pray is, "O ye gods, give me whatever is fitting unto me." That means just give me, just allow me to remember you under any circumstances. Now, Gautama Buddha has said one very nice saying, because, Buddhist and Gautama Buddha himself actually did not preach God as such. That means God, what is called, without form or with form, or with quality or without quality. He always emphasized Atmadipa Bhava. That means be, what is called, be on your own. That means be on your try to be patient, or try to make your own effort to realize nirvana. So he has said the greatest prayer is patience. So it is a prayer. Prayer in a sense, that means patience means we have to wait for the maybe result or what is called maybe of the outcome. So in that way, actually, he has said greatest prayer. It is a sort of prayer. Patience is a prayer, Gautama Buddha has said. Carlyle, he was a great thinker, and as you know, Carlyle actually presented to uh, what is called one of the greatest thinker of this country, one copy of Bhagavad Gita when he met him. So he said, prayer is and remains always a native and deepest impulse of the soul of man. There is nothing deeper than prayer. That means it comes out of the depth of our heart, and it is an experience of anybody who has prayed. So it is not a superficial thing. It comes from the depth of heart. Then it has been said, this is also very important to know that God is not a cosmic bellboy for whom we can press a button to get things. So this is very important to know. That means for trivial things, one should not really pray to God. That means bellboy means you are sitting in the restaurant, you just ring the bell and the boy will come, probably ask for a cup of tea. So don't employ God in that position of a bellboy. Ask anything that you want to God. That is that has been said earlier. That means give me whatever is fitting unto me. So in that way, that is the best prayer. Otherwise, if you just pray for little bit things, that thing, actually, we can think that God will be annoyed. That means you can get these things by your own effort. So you're very lazy and just asking for these things. And he will not listen to those things because he knows that you have the power to get things by yourself. So that we do. That means it is very important that we have to struggle utmost to get what we want. And when we fail, or when we see that it is not possible, it is beyond our capacity to do that, then actually we should take resort to God. Then actually God turns his face to us. That is also good to know. Without effort, if you say taking what is called good food and living good life, and you pray, God will say that let him be happy with what he has. There is enough time, I shall look to him later on. So this is, of course, an imaginary attitude of God, but this is definitely true. Once in the lives of great sages and saints, we see when the extreme situation has come, then actually they have the vision of God and God comes to them. In case of Sri Ramakrishna, he was so serious. That means he said that, well, I shall commit suicide. I shall cut my head. Then actually he had the vision of God. That means he was so intense in his desire to have vision of God. So these are the then Saint Francis de Sales. She has said that he prays well who is so absorbed with God that he does not know he is praying. That means it should be automatic. That means unceasing, as it is called. Automatically prayers will come in the mind, and in that way actually he will think of God. So prayers, there are what is called in the Bible also, you'll see that there are teachings of the apostles that when you pray, pray unceasingly. That means without any interruption. So to make the prayer successful, it is necessary to pray continuously. Of course, there are some people have done that, but for us, unceasingly may not be always practicable. But definitely, when you pray, some portion of the prayer should be in the back of our mind. Time to time, we can resort to pray, and in that way, we can remember God. So he has said this Saint Francis has said, he prays well who is so absorbed with God that he does not know he is praying. Just remembering God is also a prayer. You can see that means in every aspect of your action or thought, you are remembering God. That is also a sort of keeping touch, and that is also a prayer. Then just to illustrate or to show what will be the intensity of prayer, one Benjamin Franklin, he was a very well-known person, so everybody knows him. So he has said, work as if you were to live 100 years. When you work, so do your work, that means continuity of work will be there for 100 years. That means continuously you will be able to work 100 years. In that attitude you do or work. That means let work come, I shall do. In that way we have to think. But when you pray, so he's saying pray as if you were to die tomorrow. So it should be so intense that if God does not come and save me, I shall die tomorrow. So that type of intensity should be there in the prayers. Swami Vivekananda, that means I would like to conclude with one very interesting statement of Swami Vivekananda, how actually he has said about prayer. He has said in one place, in the Raja Yoga, we have read that also. He says that the man who thinks that he is receiving response to his prayer does not know that the fulfillment comes from his own nature. So this is very interesting. That means we do not see the prayer in this from this angle. That he has succeeded by mental attitude of prayer in waking up a bit of his infinite power, which is coiled up within himself. So this is one way of seeing the prayer. That means when you pray, if it is intense, the concentration is intense actually, the power is not coming from outside. The power is already within ourselves, which is awakened, and in that way our prayer is answered. So let me repeat this. The man who thinks that he is receiving response to his prayers does not know that the fulfillment comes from his own nature. Own nature means from within. It doesn't come from anything outside. That he has succeeded by mental attitude of prayer in waking up a bit of this infinite power which is coiled up within himself. Actually, in the context of Raja Yoga, as you know, that we have coiled up energy, which is known as Kundalini, which is working always, but it is not intensely working, but it is intensified when the mind is concentrated. So in that way, he is saying a person who is doing intense prayer, he does not know that through his prayer, his mind has become concentrated, and naturally he's getting the result of that. Say vision of God. So prayer brought vision of God. Like in case of Sri Ramakrishna, it is not that God actually came from heaven, came from elsewhere and stood before him. It was because of his intensity of prayer, actually he had the vision of God. So these are the thoughts that came to my mind in the context of prayer, which is very important in the present day circumstances, those who are really passing through this or observing this situation through which actually the present day world is passing. Let me conclude with one prayer in this context. This prayer is from Metta Sutra, it is called, is a Buddhic literature. Sarva starata durgani, sarva bhadrani pashyatu, sarva sadbuddhim apnatu, sarvatra sarvatra nandatu. May all be freed from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pasyantu, ma kasyid dukkha bhag bhave. May all be happy. May all be free from disease. May all realize what is good. May none be subject to misery. This is a part of the very popular prayer that we find in the scriptures. Next Sunday, that is on May 9th, Swami Ishodhananda will speak on the secret of motherly love. That is Mother's Day, so it will be very appropriate to talk about mother's love. Now we are continuing our regular classes and discussions and discourses. So on Wednesday, there will be Raja Yoga class at 7:30 p.m., which will be conducted by me. And Narada Bhakti Sutra, Aphorisms on Devotion, that is a discussion group that is being conducted by Swami Ishodhananda. That will be on Friday at 6 p.m. And on Saturdays, we are having the discourse of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna at 7:30 p.m. That will also continue. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna discourse will be on Sunday at 7:30 p.m. So these are the upcoming events. Om Madhuvataritayote Madhuksharanti Sindhavaha Madhi Irna Santoshadhihi Madhunakto Mutosasi Madhumat Parthivogang Rajaha Madhudaurastuna Pita Madhumana Vanaspatihi Madhumagangastu Suryaha Madhirgavo Bhavantunaha Om Madhu Madhu Madhu. Sweet by the winds and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the herbs and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us with the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessings. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us with the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us with the shining sun. Sweet unto us with the all living creation. Om, sweetness, harmony, peace. Thank you very much for joining in today's talk.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Swamiji.
Swamiji.
If you have any question, I can try to answer.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Joel. You and Papi have separate.
Yeah, she's watching from inside. I am outside in the garden on my phone.
Okay.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you very much. All right. See you on Wednesday.